Now that we know a little bit about the anatomy of the eye, our next learning objective is to describe the pathway of light through the eye. We see because light passes through the eye, is absorbed by photoreceptors, and is turned into a neural impulse or signal that gets passed back to the brain. So starting up here, outside the eye, and the light first passes through the cornea, which is, remember, that clear part at the front of the eye. The light then passes through the anterior cavity, which is filled with aqueous humor, through the pupil, which is the hole in the middle of the iris, through the lens, which is where the pathway of light can actually be altered a little, through the posterior cavity, which is filled with vitreous humor, and then onto this yellow layer here, which is our retina. So we have cornea, anterior cavity filled with aqueous humor, pupil, lens, posterior cavity filled with vitreous humor, and then on to our retina. Now, where it gets a little bit tricky is that our retina is actually made up of a few levels of nerve cells, and the light travels in a bit of a funny way. So I just wanted to show you that here. So if you imagine the light is coming from this direction and moving towards the opposite side of the screen, so if this is our posterior cavity here, the light actually passes past all of these layers of cells to hit the back of the retina and be absorbed by this layer here. So this layer here we call the retinal pigment epithelium. And the retinal pigment epithelium contains melanin, which is a pigment which absorbs and filters light. From there, the light is absorbed by our photoreceptors, which are either rods or cones. And it's here that the light turns into a neural signal, and this message gets transmitted back along bipolar cells, into ganglion cells, and then the axons of our ganglion cells form our optic nerve, which takes the neural message back to the brain. So the light goes through our posterior cavity, past all of these cells to our retinal epithelium. The light's absorbed by our photoreceptors and transmitted into a neural signal, which then moves along our bipolar cells, into our ganglion cells, and into our optic nerve.